Hi there, you're listening to the Guitar Speak podcast, the show produced in Sydney, Australia, where we speak to some of the leading guitar players and guitar figures from all around the world. My name's Matt Wakeling, and thank you so much for joining me for episode number 88. Today I'll speak to the absolutely incredible Kaki King, who is one of the most compelling voices in acoustic guitar today, bending jaw-dropping technique to serve an innate musicality. Drawing on the influences of Michael Hedges and Preston, King has added disparate elements of pop, folk, chamber music and sound design to an ever-evolving style. She's been revered by the likes of Rolling Stone and Dave Grohl for her solo career and genre-twisting collaborations. Her multimedia tour de force, The Neck is a Bridge to the Body, is equal parts immersive, beautiful and moving. And in this interview, we talk all about that incredible show. Kaki joins us on the eve of her 2018 Australian tour, and we'll be featuring at the Sydney Guitar Festival and a bunch of other dates as well. Let's get straight to it. Here's my interview with Kaki King. Kaki King, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Hi, good to be here.
Great to have you. We're really excited that you're coming back to Australia, and this time around you're bringing The Neck is a Bridge to the Body show to the Sydney Guitar Festival and a bunch of other dates.
That is true. All that is correct.
Cool. Now, this show is amazing. I don't think I would do it justice to try and describe it. How do you describe this show to people, Kaki?
It's very tricky to describe, but I'm lighting up the guitar, but only the guitar, nothing. I'm dimly lit as a player. So the guitar has this very otherworldly character to it, and it looks incredible. And even when I see it, each time that we do the show, it still blows me away. I mean, the guitar takes on this quality that is sort of an extension of what I've always found in the guitar to be this infinitely interesting instrument. And then there's a rear screen behind me. And I'm a bit of a character, so I don't perform as me and chat with the audience. I have there's a sort of fine line between the reality of me being on stage playing guitar as I do, and also sort of serving what the guitar wants me to do. And that line is played with a lot during the show. So there's a variety of really amazing visuals, and I think that the thing I get a lot from people who see it, it's really exhilarating, it's overwhelming, it's something they, haven't ever seen before, never expected, and there's a lot of unexpected moments within the show. So just seeing like a video clip or a photograph doesn't at all do it justice. And I could go on, but it really is something that is best experienced by the beholder.
Yeah, awesome. I've watched some videos leading up to the festival, and it looks amazing. It looks incredible. So your signature ovation is just stark white, the whole thing, and the projection on it looks incredible. And obviously the music is the key, but the visual aspect as well is just such an immersive looking thing just on YouTube. So I can only imagine live.
Yeah, it is, and it's. It's funny though. Today I was speaking to someone about it, and we really did come to the conclusion that the visuals would be sort of take it or leave it if the music wasn't really outstanding. And the music is it really is amazing how it interacts inside of the show. Everything I play is live. Everything that is sound design is sort of connected to the video, so you don't feel like there's any sort of backing track kind of vibe. It's really, it's a very well thought out and well produced show. And it's funny because it was put together on a shoestring budget with in a very short time period with 1,000 things that could have been better. Of course, upon looking back, but really that the show is it's really special, but I think that that does retain all of the qualities of a good guitar show. Someone playing beautiful compositions very well on an outstanding instrument, and so that all of that is still there. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, is that I didn't sort of I enhanced what I was already doing as opposed to decide to go in a totally different direction.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. There was a quote I read that you said about this show, and it's this. I think that the video component, the visual component, is showing the guitar as I have seen it for years. Unquote. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. The video aspect, and the various videos that you see and the visuals that we put together, and just the expressiveness that it lends to the guitar, and the way the guitar completely dominates the show, is how I've related to the guitar and understood it to be, you know, for most of my career. The guitar is in control, and the guitar is also infinitely expressive, capable of so much, such an incredible composition tool, such an incredible accompaniment tool. I mean, it just sits in so many different musical worlds. And that's how I've played my entire life, and it still gives me incredible joy to pick up the instrument. So I think that just the guitar having this really big, power musically, I'm now able to express it visually. And I think that some people are more visual learners. They appreciate something
Absolutely,
that they can see more than they can hear. I'm not one of those people, but I think that the capability of the show to do both is really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I think that adds to that is that the video is audio reactive, which is so cool. Can you describe how that works?
Yeah, there's a couple of pieces inside of the show where I control what you see visually, and that really probably is the most fun for me, and the most
sure, yeah,
sort of driving the point home for the audience to see this connectivity. So yeah, there's cases where the guitar, anything that the guitar can do that you can turn into any kind of information, you can then control an aspect of a video. So for instance, there's times when the louder I play, the brighter you see the exposure of the image. So I can kind of control the kind of like the fade in and fade out of what you're seeing visually, with a sort of, fade in and fade out of my volume. And then there are this MIDI connectivity that we designed through only software. There's no MIDI component on my guitar. And it will allow me to play a note, and that note is turned into a MIDI note, which controls a color or a spiral or a particular video clip.
Awesome.
And so I'm able to actually perform the visual component on the guitar. So as a guitar player who's never had that, it's the kid in the candy store. It's just so exciting to have that level of control, and to try, and things have, the latency is fairly low. And so you really do see the guitar making the shifts in the visuals, and it's stunning, and it's so much fun. And it also allows this, there's a lot of improvisation in the show, and that's part of it, to sort of improvise what people are hearing and what they're seeing.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Because when I first heard of the idea, I think it's when you were crowdfunding it a few years ago, I kind of figured, there was going to be some great visuals created sort of as backing videos, or, that you would play along to. But this whole idea of you controlling that just adds a whole new level of expression. That is so cool.
It definitely is, and it's changed how I think about a lot of things, and going forward, it's become a very useful tool.
Now, Kaki, your career has taken lots of interesting turns, with obviously your unique guitar technique.
Hasn't it?
The first record of yours I owned and heard was Dreaming of Revenge, which is still one of my favourites.
Okay.
But
cool.
With this new show, if I think of the guitar, the amount of signal processing and effects you're running seems to be, maybe, I don't know, a logical expansion of the sonics to match the visual. Was that part of your thinking?
It's funny, because even until Glow, which is a record I made in 2012.
Uh-huh.
That record is a solo acoustic record, but it has a ton of accompaniment. But even then, I was still very pure about the guitar. The guitar has to have the sound of the guitar, the sound that I can create from it, and essentially not much more. And anything that surrounds it that's a different story.
Sure.
But for this show, I just went. I decided to throw out, no more rules, no more. I just decided to try things, and the only way that I could get the variety of sound that the visuals required, because that was the other thing. The visuals started to really dictate what the sounds were going to be. So maybe I'd written a song, but I was sort of collaborating on a visual part, and it started to, I could hear things. I mean, I'm not talking about synesthesia, but I just knew instinctively that I was going to have to go a very different route or add something. So I started off with a massive pedal board, and with some really great sounds on it, and then it didn't really fit the show very well. Having a pedal board that's got lights on it, so I covered up the lights, and then having the clickety-clackety button, so I stopped the clickety buttons. And
Okay,
then,
yes.
Just still having too much to do. So I switched to using Logic's main stage program, and using it just allows me to use whatever plugin I like. However, so now I can do anything. I mean, now I've got, I'm just working off of plugins, and fortunately, I try to have a delicate touch. I try not to go overboard, but the signal processing has held up over the years. We haven't had too many problems. There's a computer that controls what you hear,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a computer that controls what you see. And basically we've been totally fine. But yeah, it was kind of like the ultimate sacrilege. I mean, I'm already playing a plastic guitar. People already give me so much crap for that. But then to replace a pedal board with a computer and a MIDI foot controller was like, oh God, it just, the purists are all just they're shaking their heads. But, the show travels 50 pounds lighter, and
yeah, awesome.
and it has, and not just that. I mean, I can tweak every sound to fit the venue. And so my sound person will be out in the venue saying, maybe you should take out 5K during that distorted part, and so we can actually make the sound so much better.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So it was a tough choice, but it was one that I don't regret.
Yeah, sure. I think when we're talking about purists, I mean, already what you're doing is stretching the boundaries of acoustic guitar. So if anyone's getting upset about how you're processing, I mean, really, at the end of the day, who cares?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. I'm certainly not losing any sleep over upsetting people because I've been doing that for too long.
Now, can I ask you some pragmatic questions? With the guitar, you've got it actually mounted on a couple of modified microphone stands. I assume that's to keep it perfectly still for the video projection.
It's funny because I'm using lighting stands, the stands that normally you would have it for a photographer.
Oh, okay.
So they're much lighter than a microphone stand. What I've sort of found that's interesting is anything that's built to be on the road with a musician is like, as it has to be as sturdy as it comes.
Yeah.
But when you go outside of that world, there's all of this beautiful, light, dainty sort of like things that don't weigh 1,000 tons, and things that are sort of, potentially breakable, but they still hold up. I mean, there's this whole world of things that aren't, just built to put up with the stress that musicians can put on them, which I find to be really funny. So now I'm actually using lighting stands, and you're correct. The guitar is immobilized, and it's interesting. It serves some different purposes. I'm just not at the point where I have the capacity or the firepower to do the show without the guitar being immobilized.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's a very, that means it's a tracking system, and it sets yourself up for a very different, type of experience, and potential difficulty. However, and when I thought about this a lot, however, having the guitar already on stage in this weird way, floating midair, is very cool for the audience. And the way that the show opens is I'm actually not even on the stage. The guitar is sort of this presence that is almost begging to be seen, begging to be heard. And so I think that it actually is beneficial to the show that you're sort of, the anticipation builds up.
Cool.
And it's relatively easy to play. The way, if you're seated and you're playing an acoustic guitar, you're basically holding it in place with with your right elbow if you're right-handed. And so my right elbow can go at exactly the same place, and the left hand's fine to do whatever it needs to do, and the right hand's great. And there were a few modifications in my playing, but other than that, it's been fairly. That I thought would be much more difficult than it was to learn how to play a stabilized guitar. And it's not a full, it looks like it's front on. It looks like it's just straight, but we do actually have it at an angle on stage. So it's a little bit more of how you'd normally naturally angle the guitar towards you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, cool. How about viewing the fretboard? Because the whole fretboard, even the frets are white, and you've got these images projected. Man, I'm in a dim club playing covers. I have to double check I got my glasses on. How do you go?
I want you to, I came up with a solution, but I want you to guess. How do you think I'm doing it?
Well, I don't know. You're wearing the sunglasses, which I know you've said is part of your character, but are they helping in some way?
No, they're actually not.
Okay, hang on. Give me another one.
It's funny because I thought, how in the world am I going to do this? The sunglasses, actually, that was pretty interesting. We were working with projectors so often, and a lot of times, if the program would fail, or if something, like someone would change something and I was in front of it, it would just flash bright projector white at me. So I started. So the sunglasses were actually protective and practical in the beginning, and it just seemed to continue to fit with the character. But what I did is when we first prototyped the guitar, I figured, I'll just put the dots in. But then, oh my God, you actually are looking at the dots and the top of the fret. So I just took a marker and I just drew in the fret. So I have a little, the top of the neck, the only thing that I can see that you can't, has essentially just the same map of what anyone would see, which is the dots and the location of the fret.
Yeah. So you're using all this incredible technology, and you've pretty much just sharpied your frets on to help you get through the show. Yeah,
I know. Well, you know what? It's really funny because I have a similar story, and it's really, really telling. It always tells a story, especially when I, give a master class or discuss the show or have an open sound check with students. Like, this is it was so key to not let the technology get in the way and confuse you. So we realized that I needed to see the guitar. I needed to see the front of the guitar, and I needed a monitor of some sort in front of me, because that's what I'm basing my cues off of. So that's how I start and stop, and how I, find myself, pace myself throughout the show, because I don't have any in-ear. I'm not playing any click. I'm literally just, I have like I've locked in my tempo.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, we have to find a monitoring system, and there's an output from the additional output, so we have to have a split from the computer, and okay, but the monitor can't be too big, so how can, and then we were like in a sort of sitting here going, it's almost like we need a reflective surface, like something you could just look into and see yourself. And finally you're like, oh my God, this is in a mirror. And someone, I believe, by that point had already pulled up a page online these very small camera monitors that are used to, like, in huge budget films. And, like they were looking at something like $4,000. And, and it was just such a good lesson because all these smarty pants people, me and my developers, and, we couldn't figure out the most basic thing. So you really, don't underestimate the analog solution ever. Start with an analog solution to your tech problem and see if there is one, and if not, build the tech. But man, that was a really good lesson because I am not, I'm not like $4,000 more in debt right now because we did that.
That's cool, man. I love it that it's such an organic thing. You as a performer and your guitar, you've exploded it into this visual and oral thing, and then it still just comes down to you and the guitar and just making a way for that to work in a simple way. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we return back to over and over. And my friend John Maeda, who's a really very important person in the design world, he's a big fan of mine, a big fan of the show, and he said, you invite the technology in. And I think that's the most critical element that doesn't allow the thing that got you where you are, the mastery of your craft, whatever it is. And if you start to, pursue a more digital route to your analog practice, you invite it in. It's like it needs to come to the door, knock, wait patiently, and you open it and say, all right, you can come in here. Because otherwise you get totally bogged down in it. And you end up building, I've seen in the 4 years that have passed that I went from solo guitar player to multimedia artist, I have seen incredible amounts of terrible technology where the technology just completely dominates, takes away all sort of human, beauty and sensitivity and nuance, and just kind of, maybe there's an incredible system that's been built, but it just rolls over this sort of original heart. And now, of course, there's other ways in which people have used, really complex systems to create unbelievable, glorious beauty. I'm certainly not dissing, tech in an analog world, but I just think that I love that metaphor. I invited it in, and that really is what happened. So I think the integrity of myself as a guitar player and the integrity of the show as a musical show still is completely intact, and everything else enhances that.
Fantastic. Do you see this multimedia idea continuing and growing in your career in some way?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I'm currently very much in process of developing a new show, and really taking everything that we've learned with this show and exploding it, and so it's more of a theater piece. But again, we were working hard on it this morning, me and my production designer, and I said, so what do you want to do tomorrow? And he's like, I need to hear some music, because we're still building a musical show. We're not, we were letting the tech dominate and the sort of high-minded ideas. And he said, the things that you've already played for me, I need to be basing my ideas off of that and not off of how do we, express this complex philosophy about data science, blah, blah, blah. These things that we're sort of trying to insert into our project are freaking irrelevant, until we have this sort of the gut beauty, which comes from myself as a musician and, my ability to pull off fantastic things on the guitar, both technically and compositionally.
Fantastic. Man, I couldn't agree with that mindset more. So the music's the master, not the technology and the other things, but they're certainly adding to the whole experience.
Yeah.
Kaki, I can't wait to see this show in Sydney in a few weeks.
Wonderful. I can't wait to be in Australia.
So, hey, thank you so much for joining me. It's been really fun talking.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
No worries. All right. We'll see you soon then.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right, there you go. My conversation with Kaki King. That was very cool. In fact, she is very cool, and her show, The Neck is a Bridge to the Body, looks amazing. Can't wait for it to get to Australia. So check out the usual places for dates, including the Sydney Guitar Festival in August. All right, thank you so much for joining me on the Guitar Speak podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please support us by, well, there's lots of ways you could share some episodes on your social media. We're on Facebook or Instagram. You can support the production of the show through Patreon. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. And feel free to drop us a line. We're at guitarspeakpodcast@gmail.com. All right, my name is Matt Wakeling. We'll be back soon with some more fantastic guitar conversations on the Guitar Speak podcast. See you next time.